This early morning, let's enjoy an excerpt from Yong-jia Xuan-jue's Song of Enlightenment, and then meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is brought to you by the kind people who help support this channel on Patreon. This morning, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two, but first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news. If at any point during this morning's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, all you got to do is type your detailed question in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Let's chant. Since I abruptly realized the unborn, I have had no reason for joy or sorrow at any honor or disgrace. I'm hoping they're smarter than me, because I've made virtually every mistake in the book. In my late teens and 20s, I was brutally trained to believe that if I didn't make enough money, if I didn't have enough sex, then I was garbage. That affected my spiritual journey, and I tried to use various spiritual systems the way a soldier might use a Swiss Army knife. Now, as anyone who's ever worked with a Swiss Army knife will tell you, it's no substitute for the real thing. It's no substitute for a saw. It's no substitute for a bottle opener. It's no substitute for a dagger, and the like. But they still sell them, and they sell plenty of them, because what they're really selling is the promise of one-stop shopping, of all needs met. However, it's an empty promise. When I was a little boy, I came to my face was shoved in the ugly, smelly realization that my mother valued the acquisition and possession of expensive Waterford crystal more than she desired to spend time with her own children on a holiday. Waterford crystal is very pretty and it's very expensive. It's designed to drink liquids. It's not designed to pound nails. If you use Waterford crystal to pound a nail, you may be able to do it once. Then you're left with a half-hammered nail and a very expensive, sharp, dangerous mess. A parallel exists there. When we try to use a spiritual system for something it was not designed for something it did not evolve to do, you're going to get half-ass results at a very high price. And so Captain Dumbass over here spent years trying to use Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, as a way to heal my disabled body and to heal my broken marriage many years ago, and to help me vocationally and financially. I was trying to treat spirituality like a Swiss Army knife. I was not alone. There were many people trying to do the exact same thing. If you go to a Lama and you ask them for a wealth ritual, they'll teach you a wealth ritual. If you ask them for a healing ritual, most likely they'll teach you a healing ritual, especially if you pay them. Does that mean these things don't work? I don't know. The question is not, can you swing a piece of Waterford crystal and halfway tap a nail into a piece of softwood? The question is, what is the best use of the Waterford crystal? And similarly, the question is, what is the best use of the Buddha's style of meditation? What is the best use of the Buddha's Eightfold Path? I would say peace and love. Being peaceful and being loving. I would say that is the litmus test of the Buddha's spiritual system. There have been some prominent teachers on the path. There has been the Buddha himself, who's known by some as Gautama and by others as Shakyamuni. There was Sa-raha, who gave us Mahamudra. There was Prahe-vajra, also known as Garab Dorje, who gave us Dzogchen or Ati Yoga. And of course, there was Yong-jia Xuan-jue, who gave us the Song of Enlightenment. Of these four pillars, none of them would suggest that we use meditation like a Swiss Army knife. All of them, to a man, would agree that the purpose of the path is to become peaceful, and the test of our peace is that it makes us loving. If it makes us aloof, it's not real peace. Now, that might sound like a no true Scotsman argument, but neuroscience backs it up. So let's go for a moment. Let's turn our attention for a moment, and I'm going to tap, let's try button 7. Every complex vertebrate is born with an anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. This is the root of goodness right here. Kind of looks like the letter C you might find on Sesame Street, if Sesame Street was, of course, run by Tim Burton. Now, old Robin Williams used to say, God gave man 2 heads, but only enough blood to work one at a time. Similarly, we have an empathy center, we have a fear center, you might call the amygdala, and for some reason, they have an antithetical relationship to each other like a teeter-totter. Either our empathy center is lit up or our fear center is lit up, like a toggle switch that you might use to turn on the light on the wall in your apartment or your house. Peril, the experience of peril, lights up our amygdala and undermines our empathy center. Meditation that is effective, meditation that works with our autonomic nervous system to notice with great vulnerability and then to physically relax and mentally release, frees us from the dungeon of our fear center and returns us to the throne room of empathy. Therefore, if a meditation system does not free us from self-centered fear, what good is it? Now you might say, well, all I need to free myself from fear is my prefrontal cortex, and I'll use some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I'll use the rational motive approach. I will talk to myself. I will talk myself out of what I feel. And if you do that, you're going to exhaust your prefrontal cortex and soon present with some of the symptoms of depression, which I would not recommend. Our autonomic nervous system evolved to notice and release in a deeply sustainable and therapeutic manner. Mindfulness and meditation are our attempts to dance with our autonomic nervous system in a therapeutic way that frees us from the tyranny of our fear center and returns us to the safety and bliss of empathy and fulfillment. When we master the Buddha's path of meditation, we can still perceive joy, and we can still perceive sorrow, but we are no longer controlled by them. We no longer chase joy and flee sorrow. We can perceive honor. We can perceive disgrace. But we're no longer pathologically, neurotically chasing one and fleeing the other. Let's continue. I have entered the deep mountains to silence and beauty. In a profound valley beneath high cliffs I sit under the old pine trees. Zazen in my rustic cottage is peaceful, lonely, and truly comfortable. So, the ideal being put forth here is not, oh, I need a palace on a hilltop. No. All this guy got, to quote the Jungle Book, he's looking for the bare necessities. A safe, quiet place to sit in meditation. To savor solitude and peace and comfort. For those of us who may have extroverted tendencies, that might seem inconceivable. For those of us who might have ADHD, that might seem inconceivable. But it is a wonderful promise that there is a way to experience peace despite the presence of neurological impulses that did not evolve for our peace, that did not evolve for our happiness, that evolved purely for survival of our species. Perhaps if you are as old as me, you remember Men in Black. The first Men in Black movie, I think there's been 4. In the first Men in Black movie, there appeared to be an old man who was murdered by an assassin, or a baddie. And during the autopsy, it was discovered that the old man was not really an old man, but a vessel designed to look like an old man. And in the control center of the vessel was a teeny tiny alien. That is a wonderful metaphor for our DNA, for our genes, who basically treat our bodies like a big giant vessel to do its bidding. Our DNA, our genes, they just want to replicate in perpetuity. And their primary goal is not the fulfillment or the peace or the happiness of their vessel. They use this vessel like a tool. So, for instance, promiscuity, betraying one's romantic partner, having multiple sexual partners simultaneously is not necessarily good for physical health. It's not necessarily good for emotional health, but it's great if your only goal is to spread the genetic material and keep it going to the next generation. The impulses screaming in the corridors of our brain to not have our best interests at heart, he said anthropomorphically. They have the procreation of our genes and the protection of our genes at heart. If we want peace, if we want fulfillment, then we must first liberate ourselves from the tyranny, from our slavery to our ancient primal drives. We do not do that by pretending they're not there. We do not do that by repression. We do not do that through self-hypnosis. We do not do that through some sort of pseudo-intellectual gymnastics. But we can do that through the cunning use of our autonomic nervous system in the arena of mindfulness and meditation. If you've just joined me, welcome aboard. If at any point during this morning's abbreviated practice, I've got a medical appointment, but if any time during this morning's abbreviated practice you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, just type your specific question, your detailed question in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. There it will be promptly ignored and eventually ridiculed. Inspired by the writings of the late Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, this practice is going to have a remarkably short chant in the beginning and at the end. The chant is designed purely to exercise the neural pathways responsible for empathy and enthusiasm, these second and sixth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. We do this simply by chanting the couplets of bodhicitta and the couplet of refuge. Please join me. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Notice, there's nothing here selfish, and there's nothing here superstitious. We're not asking for the blessings of real or imagined entities. We're simply following an example of a real person or merely an archetype, applying instructions, and relying on other people who are doing the same thing longer than we have and hopefully more successfully than we have. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. 2 more times. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. And now we come to our main course, mindfulness and meditation, which are known by many names, such as Zen, Chan, Jnana, Mahamudra, Ati Yoga, Dzogchen, Treksho, and even Slice Through. But oddly enough, not sliced bread. Ancestor Wu described meditation in terms of Jing, Qi, and Shen, body, breath, and mind. And we're going to do the same thing. Physically, let's emulate the posture described in the statue whose photograph we see in the center of the page. Let us stack our calves comfortably, opening not from the knees but the hips. Let's allow our shoulders to find the midpoint between being too forward and too far back. We'll allow a gentle Mona Lisa-like smile to play upon the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes. We allow our head and our tush to experience traction. There you go. Let's turn our attention to breathing. As we breathe, our in-breath is shorter and sharper. Our out-breath is longer and softer. Let's turn our attention to mind. As we breathe in, and by the way, so as we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. You see, we evolved. During each inhalation, we inadvertently access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not for concentration, but perception. What type of perception? That which is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. Messy, just like life. We could notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We could notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We can experience the external or the internal, the physical or the mental, the pleasurable or the painful, the interesting or the boring, the glorious or the grotesque. Now, what are we going to do with that which we notice? That is answered right now. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to, we involuntarily access our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to physically relax and mentally release. We don't have to force noticing. We don't have to force relaxation. They're already wired into our in-breath and out-breath. What do we get to do? Simple. We align our intention with the inner therapist of our autonomic nervous system. We align our intention to vulnerably notice as we breathe out. We align our intention to physically relax and mentally release as we breathe out. That's meditation. The easiest way to do that is to silently and mentally recite these words in harmony with our inhalations and exhalations. Having beat this horse into the ground, let us practice together right now. Welcome to the live stream. When you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type that question in great detail in the chat window. Let us seal this brief morning practice with a bit of the old wishing love by implementing the 4 immeasurables, which help us train not only in the second fold of the Eightfold Path, but also the first fold, right view, as well as right intentions. May everyone be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it on social media. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. Either way, in about 11 or so hours, I intend to return to lead tonight's evening meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.